It's likely that we've all come across counterfeit goods, also known as fakes, copies, or just plain dodgy. On the face of it, it might seem like we're getting a real bargain, but buying counterfeit goods can come at a high price. Let's take designer sunglasses for instance. These sunglasses are an example of counterfeit goods because the manufacturer has illegally copied and represented them as genuine with intent to deceive. Even if we know this is the case, it might still seem tempting to get a look-alike for a fraction of the price. The quality won't be as good as the real thing, but does it really matter if they look the part? I mean, what's the harm? Well, it might be worse than you think. Substandard manufacturing processes mean that the sunglasses won't meet national safety standards. Did you know that counterfeit sunglasses might not protect you from the sun's rays? Exposure to UV rays can contribute to cataracts, clouding of the lens, and macular degeneration. So all things considered, is buying counterfeit goods a risk worth taking? If you're still not convinced, how do you feel about counterfeit medicine? It may seem shocking, but medicines can be counterfeit too. Would you take a counterfeit paracetamol to help ease the pain from a headache? Companies producing counterfeit medicines don't comply with the strict regulations followed by legitimate pharmaceutical companies, meaning they can produce them however they like. These medicines might not contain the correct ingredients, making them ineffective, or worse still, dangerous. As their packaging can be almost identical to the authentic medicines, there's no way of really knowing what they contain. In some cases, when analysed, counterfeit medicines have been found to contain highly toxic substances. With these unknown factors, is taking counterfeit medicine a risk you'd be prepared to take? Aside from the risks involved in buying counterfeit goods, have you considered the ethics? How would you feel if you knew that through buying counterfeit goods, you'd be directly supporting unacceptable working practices, human trafficking, and child exploitation? Did you know that organised crime and terrorism is funded with profits from counterfeit goods? Does this awareness change your views? Risks and deception don't just end with the sale of counterfeit goods. Fraudulent activity also comes with the territory. This is when goods or services are knowingly misrepresented by the seller as meeting the customer requirements. Would you buy from someone who has acted dishonestly just to make a gain? Let's take a second-hand car, for example. Would you buy from a garage if you had a suspicion that they'd falsified the MOT certificate and the car was actually unroadworthy? Would you be willing to take such an obvious risk? So what happens when we discover these types of goods or services in our industries? Proving that something is counterfeit or fraudulent isn't always that easy. But even before these items are proved to be counterfeit or fraudulent, they are treated as suspect and managed with the same caution. Ineffective sunglasses, medicines containing toxic substances, terrible working ethics, deceptive sellers. Hopefully, this is starting to build the bigger picture of counterfeit, fraudulent or suspect items, or CFSI as they're termed in the nuclear industry. The nuclear and defence industries are working hard to manage the risks from CFSI because counterfeiting isn't just limited to designer goods and medicines. From electronic components to raw materials and machined parts, almost anything can be copied. This is a concern for these industries, and for good reason. Imagine the potential impact of a counterfeit item finding its way into a nuclear or defense product. The consequences could be devastating, and not only affecting the people working with the product, but the public and the surrounding environment too. Preventing counterfeit items entering these industries has become more challenging with the increase of online purchases and the complexity of modern supply chains. We all have a part to play in facing these increasing challenges. So what can you do as an individual? Start by recognizing the risk that CFSI poses to your business. Have the right policies, processes or plans in place to address these risks. Promote awareness of CFSI and deliver functional training within your business. In engineering or design roles, clearly define technical specifications, critical characteristics and acceptance criteria. This is important because what you document here will be used to accept goods or services later on. Allow the supply chain or procurement teams plenty of time to develop robust sourcing strategies to reduce the risk of CFSI entering the supply chain. In procurement roles, make sure that the technical requirements and acceptance criteria are flowed down through your supply chain. Define requirements as early as possible. Ideally, trade directly with the manufacturer, or only use reputable suppliers who have been approved in advance by the manufacturer. Always carry out thorough due diligence before engaging with a new supplier. If this is not possible, find out where non-approved suppliers are sourcing from. To prove authenticity, make sure you have evidence that traces the item back to the original manufacturer. Look out for red flags that warn of the potential risk of CFSI. Shorter lead times than other suppliers, sudden availability of obsolete or hard-to-source goods, or cheaper than expected prices are all red flags and should never be ignored. If something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Always carry out thorough due diligence to avoid putting yourself or your business at risk. Remember, counterfeiting is a global problem, so don't make assumptions or exceptions based on your supplier's country. Raise awareness of CFSI with your suppliers so that they also play their part in managing the risk. Make sure you have the relevant oversight and assurance in place according to the goods or services provided, so potential risks can be spotted early on. Always check when receiving and accepting goods or services that they meet the requirements outlined in the technical specification. This includes the documentation too. Check for anything unusual, like slight differences in packaging or labels. Indicators of CFSI are often very subtle. Remember, counterfeit goods are substandard and have no place in the defense and nuclear industries. As well as managing non-conforming goods in line with your local processes, extra controls should be put in place to stop the goods re-entering the supply chain. If CFSI is discovered in your business, you should inform all interested parties. The risk of CFSI is a challenge we all face. CFSI compromises commitments to our customers, endangers people, impacts on profit, and inflicts reputational damage to our businesses and industries. Remember, thorough due diligence can help protect ourselves and our industries from the risks of CFSI. Together, we can make a difference in the fight against CFSI. This presentation has been brought to you by the Safety Directors Forum Supply Chain Working Group to raise awareness of the risk of CFSI.